Gerard O'Brien, welcome to the Nightly Show. How are you?
Very good.
Gerard, you're a master EFT practitioner and a spiritual healer. Tell us, what is it that you actually do?
I basically help people with emotional and physical pain, and I use a technique called EFT, otherwise known as Emotional Freedom Technique, tapping. And what I do is I tap on acupressure points on the upper body, and this helps to release stress from the body and help us to move on in our life. You know, there's a lot of things that people are held back from, things from the past, for instance. They start to clog up our energy system within our body, and this is where stress, anxiety, depression and all these negative emotions start to come in, which holds us back from moving on in our life, you know.
And would you say that you deal with people with both mental and physical problems?
Yeah, absolutely. And in a lot of cases when somebody comes to me in physical pain, it's actually connected with an emotional blockage. I've had a lot of people come to me with back problems and shoulder problems up around the neck, for instance, where we were holding several layers of stress up around our shoulder area. And a lot of the time I'd look for the emotional connection. And once we find that, I just tap on these points. My client will actually verbalise what I'm tapping on.
And you mentioned back pain, neck pain.
Yeah.
Would you have had clients come to you who've been to the doctor, they've been given a load of tablets, it hasn't helped, and all of a sudden they've heard about you, they said, okay, I'm going to give a healer a try, and have you solved their problem?
Yes, on numerous occasions. Now, to be fair, I can't say I solved everybody's problem, but I have served, how would I put it, I've helped so many people in physical pain. There was one particular lady, Moira was her name, I believe. She came to me with a Zimmer frame, and she was having what was called tremors, I believe. It was likened to consistent epilepsy. That's the only way I could describe it. It was constant. Her whole head, her body, hands, legs, everything was going. So her husband dropped her outside and helped her to come up the steps with me. And she was in a bad way, and she said, there's nothing you can do for me. I said, look, I'm coming from a different angle. I'm working with energy. And I said, are you a little bit open-minded? She said, yeah. So to cut a long story short, she was stressed to the hilt. I worked on issues that she was holding in for quite some time, and in recent times she was holding on to a lot of stuff that created so much stress within her body that it kicked her whole physiology out of sync. And within, I'd say, 35 minutes, she walked out the door, and I brought the Zimmer frame out with her. Obviously she got very emotional, and when the husband came along, I said, you might as well put that in the boot and chop it up when you go home, because you won't need it again. And she's never had a relapse ever since.
And what would you say, we'll say to the skeptics, we'll say maybe doctors may disagree with healers, you know, they'd be more into medication where you'd be more into energy. What would you say to those people going, no, I don't trust the energy healing?
But look, I mean, they're entitled to their opinions, but things are moving, times are changing. And, you know, over 100 years ago, whatever, they said people wouldn't get to the moon, you know. I mean, energy healing is very, very fast moving in the world at the moment. It's actually been introduced to hospitals in the United States, schools in the United States, and this is where I want to come in as well. I've been trying to get involved in schools to teach children how to use this simple technique.
I suppose with your job you have to be very empathetic, people trust you, you help people along the way. I'm just going to list a few of the things that you actually do help people with. If anyone wants to come see Ger, you help with people trying to stop smoking. You deal with depression and mood disorders, panic attacks and anxiety disorders, dealing with fears and phobias, sleep problems and insomnia, blushing, anger management, stress management, child abuse, dealing with autism and dealing with grief. Now, I know myself, I've come to you myself a couple of times, dealing with stress and anxiety, and you used a certain technique in me, and which I must say, you really have helped me. For the people watching, can you just describe what that technique is? Yeah,
as I say, it's just a tapping sequence, and it's basically just tapping on specific acupressure points on the upper body. That's just a little bit of it, and we just focus on whatever issue that we're actually feeling at that particular moment, what I would call most pressing issue. And again, it could have been something that happened in the past. It could have been bullied, and that bullying never leaves a person, to be fair. A lot of people come to me and they say, you know, I've dealt with that. And when I hear with that, I know they haven't dealt with that. They haven't dealt with it on an energetic level, okay? Because everything from the past has an energetic connection to it. By tapping on these acupressure points, we can actually release the energy that's attached to the time, place, event, or the trauma, because it's got that resonance, okay? So by tapping, it's like cutting the energy. So if I gave the scale to the person, we'd say, that was bullied when they were 10, and how they felt about it, probably fair. Let's just say they said it was a 10. So I'll get them to focus on the memory, for instance, because it's still replaying in the subconscious mind, which is the filing system for the conscious mind. It never forgets. So that can be brought up in a millisecond, that fearful image. So we'll work on it, and the intensity will come up, get them to focus on the feeling and the emotion. Tap on it, and after a minute or two of tapping, I'll just tune back in and say, what's the intensity like? But by tapping on the fear, for instance, and the bullying, the intensity will drop.
And you seem to help people achieve their dreams, we'll say,
Totally.
get over their phobias.
Absolutely.
What exactly is your dream?
My dream.
What's next for you?
My dream, to be honest with you,
want?
I absolutely live and breathe what I do.
Yeah.
I want to get this into every school in Ireland, get into businesses. I want to go into businesses, do inspirational talks for the staff of corporate companies, for instance, and to work on them on an individual basis in a particular office in the company for several days a week, from the CEO down to the person on the ground.
And would you say you're a big believer in the law of attraction?
100%. As you know, I was on 96 FM Christmas speaking about this, you know, and it is profound. Basically, you get what you think of, whether you want it or not. So be careful what you think of, because energy follows thought. Now, I just want to bring up one topic as well, and I've approached a couple of schools on this on numerous occasions, and I haven't heard anything back from them, okay? And this was the suicide awareness. Now, I'm not necessarily going to go in and speak about suicide. Why bring it up? I want to go in and talk to children about empowering them, okay? About instilling so much positivity in children that are lacking self-confidence today, that just need a bit of a push, and to instill in them that how important every individual child is going forward in their life, and they don't have to conform to society or to peer pressure. Be a maverick, be an individual, and do your own thing, have your own mindset. I want to instill this in children as well, you know. Going back to the suicide thing, I've dealt with so many different people that have come to me with suicidal tendencies. In fact, only recently, I think it was 6 weeks ago, I got a phone call from this lady, and I had 5 clients this particular time, and she was so worried about her husband. He was literally curled up in a ball for 9 months on the ground, just crying constantly, wanting to take his own life. I dropped everything. When he left me, he had no more suicidal thoughts, okay? I got him to see things with more clarity, vision, and an open-mindedness that he'd never experienced before, okay? I instilled so much positivity in him, and to make him realise how important he was and the effect that he had on his family's lives and everybody else around him that cared and loved for him. He saw things differently. I tapped on him and I tapped on him, and he didn't take his own life, thankfully, and it changed everything. It's the most wonderful feeling when you can feel that love, that empathy in your heart to actually help another human being.
Well, Ger, I must say you've helped me all the time. Like, any time I've met you, you've really helped me, and you've helped me with my career, and no doubt you have a huge career ahead of you. Where can people see you next?
I'm in Carrigaline Court Hotel next Sunday, doing a talk and an introduction into EFT and doing some demonstrations on the day.
And if people want to make an appointment with you, how will they do so?
They can, through Facebook, Cork Energy Healing.
Okay. Brilliant,
Yeah.
Ger. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, and thank you very much for having me on.
Pleasure. And now back to Ken.